Hello Tamers, Regina or Jigglypuff here, and I am back with another deck profile. This one is for Ice Snow. This one's actually technically more of an updated Ice Snow versus an actual fully complete Ice Snow deck. I've had one before, but EX11 Dawn of Liberator came out with a bunch of new Liberator cards, obviously, and that included the Ice Snow stuff. So this is going to implement a lot of those cards, and actually just talking about the choices that I did and didn't put inside of this deck. As always, I want to thank you so much for checking this out. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started on here. Now we're going to start off with the eggs, as we always do for these Digimon decks. I am actually kind of on the fence about this one. This is one of those decks where I think it's actually a personal preference for what egg you are running. You have a choice of the new EX11 Hiyarimon, which is on your turn. While your opponent has no Digimon with Digivolution cards, this Ice Snow trait Digimon can also attack your opponent's unsuspended Digimon. Because this deck works primarily with Ice Clad, as long as you have a full stack, on your way up you'll be stripping sources, so you should be able to win the battle 90% of the time, because Ice Clad checks the sources versus the DP. So Hiyarimon as an egg makes it so that you're able to make sure that you can attack a threat that you think is on your opponent's side of the field. And there are inherents that give you your Ice Snow trait Digimon Piercing. The other egg that you have for the Ice Snow trait ones is actually from EX7. This is on your turn when attacking. If your opponent has no Digimon with Digivolution cards, you draw one. So normally I am such an advocate for cards that let you draw an extra card. I have found that when I am playing, I really like the chance to be able to attack into something that is currently unsuspended, because there's a lot of like Digimon out there that want to stay unsuspended so they can protect themselves on from being attacked, right? And lately, when I've been playing and testing the deck, I actually have not really been missing the EX7 Hiyarimon versus really enjoying the, I guess, more aggressive nature of the EX11 Hiyarimon. Again, personal preference, you can run this as a 3-2 split, a 4-1 split, or just a full 4 of, like, completely up to you. I am currently personally running a 4 of the EX11 Hiyarimon. That is the new one from Dawn of Liberator, and I've actually cut the EX7 Hiyarimon. I am contemplating doing a 4-1 split. I am not sure how I feel about that, because my rule usually is if I hatch the egg and it's the 1 of egg, how do I feel about it? And if I feel not great about it, then I usually don't run it. But again, completely personal option on there, right? Now, we're going to move on to our level 3s. Our first of level 3s is 4 of the EX11 Penguinmon. This is the new Penguinmon. This one is a little interesting, right? It has an on-play effect. You reveal the top 3 cards of your deck, and you add 1 Suzune Kazuki and 1 Ice Snow trait Digimon card among them to your hand. Then you return the rest to the bottom of the deck. The inherit is jamming, which is fantastic because Ice Clad does not actually work in security. That one actually does a DP check, because obviously you would win all of your matches. Well, you would win the majority of your matches with Ice Clad into security, right? So the reason I have a slight issue with this card is it specifically looks for Suzune. And I think that's very fascinating, because it's one of, I think, the few, if not only time that the on-play... Oh, sorry. The Ryotaro deck, the Dynamon deck, actually also does this, where you're naming the actual tamer that they are partnered with versus just saying Liberator and Ice Snow. And I think it kind of limits your search potential, because there's only 2 Suzune Tamers out there right now, so you only have really a total of 8 targets if you're running a full 4 of in the deck. I'm still running it as a 4 because I still like searching, and if you search enough times, you'll get to the bottom of your deck eventually, and you should be able to hopefully pick up an Ice Snow trait Digimon, because I think, barring like 1 card in this deck, everything is an Ice Snow trait Digimon. But jamming is also great. I really like jamming. EX11 jamming, fantastic. I'm also running a 3 of the EX8 Penguinmon. This is your turn when this Digimon would Digivolve into a Digimon card with the Ice Snow trait. You reduce the Digimon cost by 1. Cost reduction is just really neat to have. The reason I'm running this as a 3 of is because the more I play, the more I realize cost reduction is nice, but it doesn't really advance my game plan in a lot of different ways. It just saves me memory, which is still good. It's just a little rough sometimes out there. It has 1 attacking effect, so give one of your opponent's Digimon secure attack -1 until the end of their turn. Note that this does not this does not specify that they have to have no sources. It just says one of your opponent's Digimon. So that is like a nice kind of bonus to it. I do still want the jamming. I'm not gonna lie, I still really like the jamming, just because it tends to favor a more aggressive game plan. But continue on with our level 3s. We're gonna move on to a 4 of the EX7 Bulucomon. So This one is also very interesting because the Bulucomon actually only picks up one type of card inside of this deck. As a spoiler alert, I don't actually have the rest of the line in here. It's just an Ice Snow trait that I'm really looking for. So, this one was kind of iffy. This one was also potentially an Ukomon. Just Ukomon evos for 1 on top of the egg, and you can't really use your options after you evo into an Ukomon. Ukomon just helps you switch faster. But Bulucomon from EX7 says, on play, reveal the top 3 cards of your deck. You add a card with Paildramon or Hexablaumon in its name and 1 card with Ice Snow trait among them to the hand. Then you return the rest to the bottom of the deck. This was great when the deck didn't have a separate line for the Skadimon line, and it was just mostly Ice Snow focused, so you could run the Hexablaw line and the Skadimon line, and it was great. I still like it as a rookie, still don't mind having it on play for it. The one attacking, once per turn, tries the top Digitalization card of one of your opponent's Digimon. Still really good. The searching is just not terrible, in my opinion. Again, this could be an Ukomon if you really felt like it, if you had the Ukos. I'm still kind of waffling on this. This deck list is very flexible right now because I feel like every time I play it, there's something I want to change. So this is where I'm currently at with it. I am also running a one of the EX7 SnowAgumon. I just think it's funny that it has Ice Clad because if you manage to play it out somehow and you get it on top of an egg and you source strip your opponent, your level 3 can kill can delete like a level 7 or something. It's really funny. The SnowAgumon has a 1 attacking the same as the Bulucomon, which is trash top Digitalization card of one of your opponent's Digimon. I also just wanted to pad this out with extra Ice Snow rookies so that way you're able to pick up extra things. But again, these 2 spots are actually the most flexible. I just think you should stick with Penguinmons for sure, but these 2 are kind of, dealer's choice at this point. Moving on to level 4s, running 3 of the EX11 Frigimon. I love this Frigimon. This Frigimon is cool. Why? When digivolving, if you have 1 or fewer Tamers, you can play a Suzune Kazuki from your hand without paying the cost. Yay! Love that. And this new Suzune also has an on-play, so it synergizes very, very well. I also love it because the Inherit is jamming. It does not have Ice Clad, which is the only issue that I technically have with it. However, being able to play a Tamer for free is always really nice. This is just as a 3 of because I tend to lately have my play a Tamer for free cards depending on what the rest of the level 4s look like. This one always tends to be just at a 3 of, and I think it's because at a certain point it just feels like a dead card in your hand, right? Which is why I'm running a 4 over the EX8 Frigimon. This is the original Frigimon for this deck, which is on play when digivolving, you trash the bottom 2 Digivolution cards of one of your opponent's Digimon. Then, if your opponent has no Digimon with Digivolution cards, you gain a memory. Paired with the cost reduction Penguinmon, this is technically a free Evo without ever having to use a training boost. It also has Ice Clad. So, the nice thing about this is if you get this on really early against your opponent, you can usually get rid of whatever they have on the field, barring them turboing into like a 5 or a 6, because you should be able to get at least like 2, you should be able to get the 2 sources out, and so if you guys are at even pacing, that means you get rid of a 3 and you get rid of an egg, which means you can Ice Clad into it because it's a 5k DP Digimon. Its Inherit is when attacking, give one of your opponent's Digimon security attack -1 until the end of their turn. Again, notably, does not care about if it has sources or not. You just give it security attack -1. This one is just nice because there are ways later on to play it out for free, which means that you can gain back memory and extend your turn just a little bit longer. So this one feels at its worst, it's a on play for 5, strip some sources, don't gain memory back. At its best, it's a play for free, gain back a memory. So the spectrum for it is actually pretty large in my opinion, and I like it a lot. The other level 4s that I'm running here, oh no, that's a spoiler alert, guys. I'm running one of the EX Sorcermon. This Sorcermon is on play if your opponent has no Digimon with Digivolution cards when your Digimon unsuspends. This one is funny because I used to use it with the old Skadimon, so you're able to attack and play out the Sorcermon to unsuspend your Skadimon so you don't use its second one attacking effect, and then you can attack, put the Sorcermon into your security or something else on your opponent's security, and you can unsuspend your Skadimon again. It's really funny. Its one attacking is trash the top Digitalization card of one of your opponent's Digimon. This is just a 1 of because it's kind of a little cheeky thing. It's not super necessary. And then, spoiler alert, I'm running 2 of the promo Icemon. This one you could earn from tournament packs, and so this one was actually a little bit funny because a lot of people were fighting over this Icemon because you could also use it in the Pyramidi deck because of the mineral type that it has. This is a when moving, on play, and when digivolving, so it's all 3 of those things. It can evolve on top of an Ice Snow, a mineral, or a rock trait for a cost of 2. And by placing one level 4 or lower Ice Snow, Mineral, or Rock trait card from your hand or trash as this Digimon's bottom Digivolution card until your opponent's turn ends, their effects can't return one of your Ice Snow, Mineral, or Rock trait Digimon to hand or decks or affect it with the Digivol effect. I think the most important part of this is the Digivol effect, which is still a little bit difficult to get around, except for special effects like this. So the Icemon is the Digimon that you will tuck a source underneath, but then you can choose one of your trait Digimon to be unaffected by this stuff. So just keep that in mind. It does not have blocker inherently, but it has it as an inherent. So you'd have to evolve on top of it to get your blocker trait, and this is actually these two cards are actually the only way to get blocker in the deck, which is fine. The goal is not to worry and need blockers. The goal is to source strip your opponent's Digimon, make them cry because they can't do one Digivolving effects, and then just go burr in their security checks. Right? Now, that'll take care of the level 4s. Level 5s. We're running a 4 of the EX8 PolarBearmon. Just letting you know right now, there's only 2 types of level 5s in this deck. So we're going to talk about this in a second, but this is the EX8 PolarBearmon. It has Ice Clad, and it has an on-play and win Digivolving effect. You trash any 2 cards from your opponent's Digimon card. That means you can choose which Digimon, because it does not say from any one of your opponent's Digimon. It just says trash any 2 Digivolution cards. Then, one of your opponent's Digimon with no Digivolution cards can't suspend or activate one Digivolving effects until the end of their turn. If you are worried about an ace target, that is what you are focusing your source stripping on, so that way they do not have a chance to ace. Well, they have the chance to ace, but they just won't get the wet Digivolving effects, right? That's the really important part here. This PolarBearmon and the other PolarBearmon both have the same effect. Your turn, while your opponent has no Digimon with Digivolution cards, this Digimon with the Ice No trait gains Piercing and Sec +1. Which brings me to our second and final level 5, which is a 4 of the EX11 PolarBearmon. This is the new PolarBearmon from Dawn of Liberator. Also has Ice Clad, and also has an on-play N1 Digivolving effect. You trash any 2 Digivolution cards from your opponent's Digimon, then you may place one of their Digimon with no Digivolution cards as the top or bottom security card. So the reason this is really funny to me is both these PolarBearmons, I chose the foils because I'm working on trying to get the foils. Both of these PolarBearmons have very, very similar art because they are basically in the same close-up pose. Have I accidentally messed up which PolarBearmon I am playing? Yes. It's a cool Digimon. I just have really terrible eyesight, apparently. But I do love both of these. I think they're really, really great in their own way. I do find that I really like the new EX11 one because being able to shove something into security, even if you're semi-recovering them, means that there's not a way for them to either get it back or to use it on their side of the field somehow. Because just because... Oh, right, the EX8 PolarBearmon also says they can't suspend. But there are ways that they can get around not being able to suspend and not being able to, like, getting one Digivolving effects versus you just put it into security and then nothing can really happen with it. That's becoming a little bit more difficult, I think, lately because of the fact that we are getting more and more effects that says when it would leave the battlefield. So I do find that I really love the EX11 PolarBearmon, though, and I am wanting it more in my hand more often than not than the EX8 one. They're both very funny because you have to start learning how to tag your opponent's Digimon with this can't suspend, this can't do this, and this can't do that. So they're both great. Just please, please, please pay very careful attention to which PolarBearmon is in your hand. And then we're going to move on to our level 6s. This is the one where I am still kind of waffling on the ratios and on the Digimon that I am using. I mentioned it earlier before, but Bulucomon only picks up one technically card in the deck, or like one type of card in the deck, which is the Ice Trait, because I'm not running Hexablouse. And there's a variety of reasons why I'm not running one right now, but I'll go through it after I go through the 2 Skadimons. The first Skadimon that we're going is the 3 from the EX8. This is Ice Clad and Barrier. It has a 1 Digivolving effect. Actually has 2 1 Digivolving effects and a 1 attacking effect. So 1 Digivolving, you can play a level 4 or lower Ice No trait Digimon card from your hand without paying the cost. For each of your opponent's Digimon with no Digivolution cards, you add 1 to this effect level's maximum. You can, and I have done this, play a level 6 off of this 1 Digivolving effect. You also have a 1 Digivolving, 1 attacking. By placing 1 Digimon with no Digivolution cards as the bottom security card, this Digimon unsuspends. So, like I said, you could technically swing with this, and then you go... So you play... So It's really weird, right? There is a world where you like evo into it, you're able to play out like the Sorcermon, or like you're able to attack. I don't remember how I did it, but it's a lot of checks with the Sorcermon combo for this. So I like this one a lot, and the more that I play this deck, the more I contemplate bumping it up to 4. I think my only problem is that the new Skadimon has a very nice alterns effect. I do love this Skadimon though. The most trouble I am having right now is deciding which art to use for this Skadimon, because this one has the Tamer one as well, and that's the cover for Digimon Liberators. But I'm also running a 3 of the EX11 Skadimon, and this one also has Ice Cloud and Barrier and an on-play when digivolving and when attacking effect. You can play a Suzune, Kazuki, or a level 4 or lower Ice Snow trait Digimon card from your hand without paying the cost. So this one is not terrible because you are able to play a level 4 or lower, so you could technically play the Frigimons, gain back some memory. My issue with this is that I really got spoiled by the EX8 Skadimon, and being able to go, yeah, I'm just play a PolarBearmon because you have at least one Digimon with no sources, which means I can go up with level, was really nice. You could technically chain it, right? You could do EX8 Skadimon into the EX11 Skadimon into a level 4, so something like the Frigimon, gain back the memory, and now you have 3 bodies on the field. It's not as great as you would like it to be because there's no way to give them rush. But then all turns on EX11 Skadimon is when other Digimon are played or Digivolve, you trash any 3 Digivolution cards from your opponent's Digimon. Then, one of their Digimon with no Digivolution cards can't suspend until their turn ends. So, this is important to note for the all turns effect. If your opponent is playing a Scramble, this is not a you may effect, it is a mandatory effect. So if they play out a Digimon with a Scramble, it technically has used the Skadimon's effect. However, that means that Digimon that they played technically can't suspend. So it does have some pros and cons depending on what deck you're playing against. I do really love this all turns because if your Skadimon survives whatever digivolving effects they do, you just source strip a lot of their stuff, and the inherits have been so crucial to a lot of decks lately. That's really funny because I've sat there a couple times across from my opponent and go, does this Skadimon live? Yes? Cool. Are all of your effects resolved? Yes? Cool. I'm going to strip that source, and that source, because I don't want you to get those effects on your turn. And it just kind of shifts their game plan a lot, so just keep in mind though that if it's on your opponent's turn, all of the effects do have to fully resolve before you can get your Skadimon stuff. And I just keep waffling back and forth between these two. And the reason I didn't put Hexablau in this deck is with the advent of new Skadimon and new Ice Snow stuff, Hexablau feels really awkward in some ways because Hexablau cares about how many sources it has so that your opponent's Digimon can't suspend if they have fewer sources than it. And for me, that means you're setting up 2 bodies and you are being very careful with your Hexablau stack. It is very good for if it has the jamming inherit, so then you can just get the extra checks and stuff in there. But I think in the long haul, for me, it doesn't feel like the attempt to build a stack just for Hexablau feels justifiable in the deck, if that makes any sense. You can totally disagree, and that's totally fine, right? I've found that I don't have a way to justify the Hexablau stack as often as I would like because this deck already feels slightly slow in comparison to other decks, and it lacks a lot of protection outside of the barrier. Skadimon doesn't have any sort of when it would be removed protection, which is a little rough, right? But that takes care of our level 6s. The only last thing on here is I am running 1 level 7, and surprise, surprise, it's Omnimon X Antibody. This technically just got a reprint in 8001, so hopefully that drives the price down a little bit because I do love this card a lot. This is the secret from BT20 with its original printing. This has Raid, Piercing, and Blocker. The reason why I play this one is just if you can't close out the game and they're at 0 security, you just evo this onto something and you just swing for game. Or, for some reason, if you're at like 6 memory, you just hard slam it. But it's on play when digivolving. If Omnimon or X Antibody is in this Digimon's Digivolution cards, you don't have to worry about that part. You choose one of both players' Digimon, you delete all the other one, then return one of your opponent's Digimon to the bottom of the deck. So that's the part you do care about. It does evo for 6 on top of Skadimon, so please keep that in mind. But end of your turn, once per turn, one of your Digimon may gain Rush for the turn and attack without suspending. So I just like this as a game finisher. I think it's pretty neat. I toyed with the idea of using Bond of Friendship Ace, the Gabu Bond one. I found that I like this a little bit because it is it has Liberator, which kind of actually matters for some of the option cards that we are running. You don't need the level 7. If you don't have it, totally fine. You can probably make this that Hexablow if you really wanted to, or you could make it another Searcher. You could make it literally anything that you wanted it to be. I had one and I thought, why not? It's funny. That concludes the Digimon, so we're going to go off to the Tamers. I also am struggling a lot with the ratios to this, but this is where I'm comfortable right now. Will that change in 3 weeks? Possibly. We'll see. So this is going to be the EX8 Suzune Kazuki. She has 2 arts. I am also struggling which arts to use because they're both very, very pretty. They both have Frigimon and Suzune on there. Starting your main phase, if your opponent has a Digimon, you gain a memory. All turns when your Digimon are played or Digivolve, if any of them have the Ice Note trait, by suspending this Tamer, trash any one Digivolution card from your opponent's Digimon. It's really great. The only unfortunate thing is, because it's a 3-cost Tamer, it doesn't do as much as you would like it to. You gain 1 memory if they have a Digimon. You don't even get a memory for trashing the card, which is the only thing that makes me sad. I still like the card. 3-cost Tamer, I'm fine with it. I would like it to do a little bit more, and that's why we have a 4-cost, the EX11 Suzune Kazuki. This one I'm only running 3 of as well. Start of your main phase, if your opponent has a Digimon, you gain a memory. Then on play, for each of your Ice No Trait Digimon, trash any 1 Digivolution card from your opponent's Digimon. If you can flip the board pretty well, that means you can at least trash 3. You can trash at minimum 3 or maximum 3. Again, really just sort of dependent on where your game plan ends up taking you, right? All turns though, when effects trash Digivolution cards from your opponent's Digimon by suspending this Tamer, you gain a memory. So this kind of works in conjunction with the EX8 Suzune. I think my struggle with these 2 Suzunes is neither one of them is a memory setter, and I love memory setters, but because the Penguinmon specifically named Suzune, I cannot find it in me to run a memory setter Tamer in here. It would probably have been the blue matte Ishida, because at least it lets you source strip stuff. The only reason I love this EX11 Suzune is I had a game where I thought to myself, if they hit this Suzune, I can win because they're 0 memory and I have 1 Digimon, and it was one of the checks, and I went, cool, on play, I have an Ice Snow, I'm going to strip that source, tap Suzune, pass over to 1. It's my turn now. It was really great. But again, just sort of waffling between the ratios for this. I was running a 4 of the EX11 at one point, but it just didn't feel like it did much after it's on play because I needed ways to source strip things, and a lot of the testing for this deck was done with decks that feel like they're a little bit faster in here. I will say the Vortextramon matchup is kind of funny because they have a lot of no source Digimon, and because Ice Cloud is a game mechanic, you can Ice Cloud into the Vortextramon. It's really great. So that's the 2 Tamers we're running in here, and we're going to move on to our options. We're running 3 of the unique emblem Frozen Crown. This is the box topper for EX11. I have found lately, and I think I've mentioned this in a different video, but I don't tend to run my emblems out of 4 of, and I think it's because at a certain point they feel really clunky in there. The unique emblems for the Liberator web novel characters, so Suzune, Ryotaro, Winwar, and Yuki, and actually Mirai, are all a 2-cost because they never revealed a level 7 for their Digimon, but it's a main effect, so you reveal the top 3 cards of your deck, you add an Ice No Trait Digimon and a Liberator card among them to your hand, which is what we were wanting for the Penguinmon, but I guess if we got both, it'd be too powerful. Then you bottom deck the rest, and you place this card in the battle area. It has a delay effect, so when any of your Suzune Kazuki are played, you delay it. One of your Digimon may evo into a level 6 or lower Liberator trait card in the hand with the Digivolution cost reduced by 3. It does not specify Liberator or Liberator and Ice Note like the webtoon characters do, but please keep in mind that it is a Liberator trait, so I think there's very few. So if it's not in the Skadimon line, so if it's not the Penguin, Frigi, Polar Bear, and Skadi, you technically can't go into it. You cannot use this to go into Omnimon X Antibody because Omnimon X Antibody is a level 7 and it says level 6 or lower. It is a Liberator though, which means you can pick it up off the search. The other one of the other options I'm running is a 1 of Hammer Spark. I just really like Hammer Spark. I like the extra memory, and it's funny because there's not a lot of decks running around that have memory floodgates, so I feel less punished for running it. And if they hit it in security, it's always really funny too. So This versus Ice Wall. Ice Wall I actually didn't run because a lot of stuff has protection from your effects lately, which means that the Ice Wall effect kind of falls off. Totally up to you. If you want to run both in here, absolutely go for it. There are other cards you can cut for that, clearly, but I debated about it for a really long time, but because of unaffected by effects is so prevalent lately in Digimon, it felt like a waste. Not really a waste, but it felt not I couldn't use it to its full potential, I guess, is the best way to put it. And then the last of the options that we're running, I'm running 2 of the mental training. This is a promo that you can find from, it was, what, BT14 box toppers, and then found in the 18 and 19 starter decks. The Gaomon one probably makes a little bit more sense because they're in a frozen landscape, but I really love the way that Terramon and Shumon looks in here, so this is the one that I'm using. I like searching. I like having the chance to delay things. The chance to reduce evolution costs. So for me, this one is still fine because everything in this deck is searchable from the mental training. And that's all I really have to say about that one. And then I'm running 2 of a Blue Scramble. Blue Scramble just to help out a little bit in terms of evoing into your Digimon later on. And also because again, Ice Snow doesn't have a protection outside of the barrier and Ice Clad, which means that it's really easy to get rid of this stack, and usually that hurts and puts you back a lot. So if you're able to at least pick up pieces from your trash because there's not a lot of ways to return stuff to your hand from it, then this is probably the best way to do so. Am I using the Gomamon over the Gabumon? Because why? Just because the Gomamon actually has had ones where you can source strip. The personal preference on your art for you. Whichever one I find first again, because I don't actually have the right scrambles for these ones yet. I don't remember where I put these, but that's actually about it for that. So the deck list is here. You will find it in the description for the video below. And as always, thank you so much for listening to me ramble about Digimon cards. I hope you enjoy Ice Snow. I think it's still a pretty fun deck. Like, genuinely, I think it's still kind of a contender. I have personally had a lot of fun playing it against Vortex, and it's been very fascinating figuring out the rulings and interactions with Vortexmon against it. So I still think it's, got some legs on it and is at least a viable contender to play with. And it's still pretty fun. EX11 made it a little bit more fun, but I hope you enjoy it. And as always, thanks for checking this out, and I hope you have a wonderful day. So, bye-bye.